Joining us from our studios in Montreal. Very happy to have Tom Mulcair, former leader of the New Democrats. Great to have you with us, Mr. Mulcair, and I'm really curious to get your insights into this story. What do you think?
Well, I think that Stephen Harper said it best. This is just about somebody being a sore loser, and if really he thought his party was morally corrupt, and words have meaning, and that's a really tough word, you'd think he would have acted on it some time ago. What we'll probably see this weekend is the Conservative troops rally around their leader, Andrew Scheer, who, by the way, I think showed a lot of poise and indeed maturity in handling the Twitter rants by Mr. Bernier, who clearly, especially yesterday when he went straight onto Mr. Scheer's leadership, was hoping to be thrown out. When that didn't work, he threw himself out. I don't think it's going to be of much consequence in the grand scheme of things. He has no support whatsoever here in the province of Quebec. The Conservatives, as was just pointed out by your other guest, have done relatively well in some parts of the province, and I think that they're going to continue to try to build on that.
So you're saying Andrew Scheer really doesn't have much cause to be worried today?
No, and I think you're going to see a tremendous outpouring of support for him over the weekend. I mean, this is such bad behavior, such poor behavior by someone who, frankly, is just showing that he has not accepted that he lost the leadership. He's trying to grasp at straws, saying that it's about supply management or this or that. Come on, that doesn't even make sense. I mean, when you take that sort of massive swipe at the people that you've been sitting with and working with for so many years, there's something else in play. I don't think that he's going to be able to put a political party together in 1 year. He's never shown that type of management skill, and frankly, it takes a lot of will and a lot of popular support across the country, and it's simply not there for him.
Well, that's something you know very well. I've got to ask you whether you think this move today by Maxime Bernier helps the New Democrats, helps Justin Trudeau's Liberals.
I think in particular it's going to be helpful for Justin Trudeau's Liberals, because anytime there's division in another party, and we saw what happened in the past when the Conservative, with a small c, the right wing of Canadian politics split, well, then it always gave a chance to the Liberals to come back and back and back. That was the message, by the way, from Michelle Rempel yesterday. She delivered it well. She goes, who are you trying to help? You trying to help Andrew Scheer, or are you trying to help Justin Trudeau? I think that in the short term, at least, the Liberals will benefit from this. Depends on the timing of the next election. It's supposed to be a fixed date. We'll see if somehow Mr. Trudeau doesn't contrive to do the same thing that Jean Chrétien used to like to do to catch the Conservatives off guard, which is to go a little bit early.
It's impossible to figure out exactly what all the motivations were for Maxime Bernier to do this, but we've been trying to, get a sense of what might have been the trigger. Was this an impulsive decision? Was this ego, narcissism, sour grapes, having come so close to winning the leadership last year and then watching it slip away by less than 700 votes? What do you think?
Is all of the above one of the picks in your multiple choice? I mean, it's that type of behavior, isn't it? And I think that that's why it was so tough for Mr. Harper to watch this, because don't forget, there had been a whole scandal involving Maxime Bernier and a woman named Julie Couillard. It made the news for weeks, if not months. And when that had already, passed, Mr. Harper was incredibly gracious and welcomed him back not only into the caucus completely, but into cabinet. So he's been given more than a fair chance within the Conservative movement and the Conservative Party that Stephen Harper worked so hard to try to cobble together from its disparate parts. And again, that's what makes it so difficult for everyone. And I think that that's why, Todd, you can safely predict that the Conservatives will show us incredibly strong support for Andrew Scheer this weekend.
In recent weeks, we have seen that Maxime Bernier has taken to Twitter and he's talked about things like multiculturalism, and he's talked about unifying Canadians, or a lack thereof. You are from Quebec, I am from Quebec. Let me ask you whether you think that has an appeal, that sort of argument about multiculturalism, PC, political correctness run amok. Does it have an appeal in his home province?
The polling on this is identical in the rest of Canada as well. People across the country are saying, we're not too sure what's been happening with our border over the past little while. It's a big open debate. We saw Mr. Trudeau go very strongly after someone, using very strong epithets. It's a debate. It's an important one, but I don't think that Maxime Bernier is going to be able to attract anybody to him on this. I think that the Conservatives have already been staking out turf that's considerably different from that of the Liberals. There's not that much room on the checkerboard for him to be able to say, well, I represent this, this wave of thinking on the issues of identity and immigration. Here in the province of Quebec, we're in the middle of an election campaign. There is a right-wing political party called the, believe it or not, there's a political party called the CAQ, and the CAQ is a party that's doing well in the polls. It's expected to have a serious chance of forming the next Quebec government. And on issues of identity and culture and immigration. They've been staking out some very strong right-wing turf. So I don't know if there's much room for Max Bernier in that.
One last question. Your political experience goes back so many years, provincially in Quebec, then federally, of course, across the country. You know, we're covering this a lot today about what Maxime Bernier has done. But in your mind, given your experience, do you think this thing sort of blows over quickly? In other words, it doesn't trigger a civil war in the Conservatives?
No, I don't think it does. I think it's going to be a one-day wonder. And I was listening to one of the Conservative commentators before saying he's just taking his toys and going home, because anything I know about Maxime Bernier, I don't see him being the type of person to be able to construct something as weighty and as complicated as a political party running 338 candidates across the country. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Tom Mulcair, former NDP leader, joining us from our studios in Montreal. Always good to talk to you, Mr. Mulcair. Thanks for getting into our studios today.
Todd.
Yeah, all the best.